To explain Tilray's larger strategy is CEO and President Irwin Simon, along with Bloomberg Open Interest co-host Matt Miller. So, Irwin, let me just start with you here. Why these 4 craft beer brands? How do they move the needle on your long-term diversification plan?
Hi, Scarlet. Hi, Matt. Nice to see you. Listen, we were started as a cannabis company. We're the largest cannabis company in Canada in recreational medical. And looking for legalization to happen in the U.S. and not seeing it happen, I knew we had to diversify this company. So what other fun area and what other adjacency was the spirits and beer industry? In 2020, I acquired Sweetwater Brewery, which had a brand called 420. We all know what 420 means. And that was doing about 2.5 million cases. With this acquisition, we'll do about 15 million cases of beer, over 1 million barrels. And why beer? I saw the beer category declining, and I saw an opportunity within craft beer to make beer fun again, to make beer unique. And I saw that there was not a lot of innovation that came out with beer. And with Tilray's beverages, we've come out with, 50, 75 new products over the past year. We've gained lots of distribution. And now we're the 5th largest craft brewer within the U.S. So, and I think, as you think about millennials, you think about, Gen Z, how do we get them to drink beer? And if one day cannabis does legalize in the U.S., hey, THC-infused beer is something that's going to be pretty exciting.
Although maybe difficult to dose, I think there's some issues around THC-infused drinks. And, Irwin, a lot of people in this country have quit drinking beer because they can legally use cannabis, for example, here in New York. And I think 26 states allow for legal cannabis use. Why can't you operate in those states that have legal cannabis dealers?
Well, Matt, great question. Because we're a NASDAQ-traded company, we cannot partake and we cannot sell any cannabis products within the U.S. Now, let me tell you something. I'm watching this election pretty closely, and I think both candidates have come out and talked about, legalization. If, when Biden and Harris got elected 4 years ago, I didn't think I'd be standing here today still talking about legalization or rescheduling. Something's got to happen. To your point, 27 states, it's legal recreational. About 35 states, it's legal from a medical standpoint. So over 75% of the country today has cannabis legalized in their state, but it's not legal, from a federal standpoint. If that happens from a rescheduling, and it's crazy out there today that cannabis is scheduled the same as a heroin and cocaine, and it's not a Schedule 3 and it's Schedule 1. So I think something's going to happen, and Tilray is ready to go. I mean, we're ready to go with drinks. We're ready to go with infused drinks.
That scheduling looks like it's about to change. At least it's been recommended now that it's changed. And we've got the Safe Banking Act, written and ready to go. Is Tilray taking part in any kind of push for Congress, for the Senate, in order to pass that Safe Banking Act and allow the financial side, the back office of weed sales in the U.S.?
Listen, we've been a part of it for a long time, and today is one of the largest cannabis growers in the world. We have over 5 million square feet of cannabis grow in Canada, and we have 2 major facilities in Europe. And you saw just recently what happened with Germany in regards to medical cannabis, that every doctor can write a prescription. So, yes. But listen, our politicians got to listen to what consumers want, what the voters want today. We pay about $150 million in excise tax in Canada. There's probably $1 billion paid in Canada in excise tax. And that is, if you take the 10 times, there's probably $10 billion of tax dollars being missed here because of cannabis not legalized from a federal standpoint. So ultimately, something will and got to happen. And that will allow us to come out with drinks. That will allow us to sell medical cannabis, as that's what ultimately legalizes here. And that's what, citizens want out there.
Sounds like Matt was asking you how much you spend on lobbying, Matt. That sounded like another way of asking that. Irwin, over the past 3 years, Tilray has expanded.
I'm not going to answer that.
We'll scour through your financial releases. Over the past 3 years, Tilray has expanded into beverage and alcohol in a big way. I was just looking at this, from 5% of revenue in 2021 to 25% now. Cannabis's share of revenue has gone from 39% to 34% over the same period. Distribution is the third leg, and then you also have wellness mixed in there as well. What do you want the breakdown to look like in the next 5 years?
Listen, as I come back and say, and we gave projections this year to between $950 to $1 billion. A few years ago, when I thought legalization could happen in the U.S., I thought we ultimately can be a $3-4 billion business. What I want Tilray to be is a lifestyle company. Recreational cannabis, medical cannabis, beverages, and wellness foods or other wellness products. And a lot will change depending upon legalization. If it doesn't happen, Tilray is well situated today to grow in the U.S. in regards to our beverage businesses. We're not just beer, we're spirits, we're energy drinks, and we're beer. But again, I think something will happen. And also, I'm pretty excited. We didn't touch on Europe. In regards to rescheduling happened in Germany, the largest country within Europe, to the 80 million people. From a medical standpoint, and medical cannabis is for sale in about 20 different countries throughout the world, that ultimately in Germany, every doctor today can write a prescription for cannabis, and through a drugstore, you can obtain it. And we have a major grow facility in Portugal and a major grow facility in Germany today that can supply that. So if cannabis was rescheduled in the U.S. with our grow facilities in Canada, we think we could ultimately sell medical cannabis within the U.S. in regards to export it in here with NAFTA.
Irwin, quick question to you. Yes or no, is federal legalization inevitable in 4 years' time?
I think ultimately you're going to get some announcements that will happen from either candidate that is running for president. So I think something will happen.